Intramuros is important because it is one destination, no, tourist destination in the city of Manila. And of course, this is a historical city. It is a city within a city because the schools are here, churches are here, institution, agencies, of course, the big churches here who always support the IA, and of course the training center who are here, the hospitals are within the city of Intramuros. My wish for Intramuros is orderly, clean city, and people should be in their perspective places. Like for instance, if hopefully in a couple of months or 3 months from now, the ISF will be relocated to resettlement site in Cavite or in Bulacan, because we want them to be in the respective homes. And of course, with that, Intramuros will rise again with this movement of informal settlers. We are not removing them from here because they are part of the community. They work here, they can come, they can live here, but they have to go to their respective permanent homes after resettlement. And of course, I wish also that Intramuros will be fully developed in terms of vacant lot, property. The owners will have this plan to develop their property here in Intramuros so that there will be no blighted areas anymore around. My name is Marieta V. Aliaga. I started working here in Intramuros in 1983, and this will be my 35th year in Intramuros administration. As Chief of the Urban Planning, I am responsible for the monitoring of construction in and around Intramuros. We are also in charge of the processing of the Intramuros Development Clearance. Intramuros should be cherished, should be loved, and should be taken care of, because Intramuros is historical. We are part of the history of the Philippines.
Tira ako sa Basco Street, Intramuros, Manila. Doon ako nagkaroon ng isip. Dito ako nakita, dito ako lumaki. Ginagawa ko dito sa eskwela talyero, sa trabaho ko. Isa ako sa mga heritage protector, isa akong mason. Kita ko yung eskwela talyero na nagtitrain sila ng mga out of school dito. May kahit na high school graduate lang, pinasok ko. Tinitrain nila hanggang sa mahasa, as kinukuha din nila as worker din. Ako si Edsel Paul Mauhay, tumutulong para maibalik yung ganda ng Intramuros. para mas may maganda yung Intramuros para sa lahat.
When I started out with the Department of Tourism, we wanted the theme, or to be the overarching theme, to be a culture of sustainable tourism. And what's good with Intramuros administration is that we should preserve it because it's a historical and a cultural site. And Intramuros is what we can call one of our national treasures. And I want the Intramuros, the district of Intramuros, it's not where you go for field trips or weddings or photo shoots. It should be a place where everybody would like to go to enjoy the sights, and it's like a place where it's like going back in time. Intramuros is a place, I think, that a living urban heritage district. It's where you have history and culture come to life. I'm Bernadette Romulo Puyat. I'm the Secretary of Tourism and also the chairperson of the Intramuros administration. Intramuros should promote the cultures and values of Malasakit and Malikain.
If you're looking at Intramuros from the perspective of history, it's one place where you could actually see the history of the Philippines as it unfolded. I see that Intramuros is an area which can embody the concept of reuse in urban planning. So just think of old structures being utilized in a modern sense. I think the challenge for us in IA is how can we recreate the former ambience so that people can relive history through Intramuros. And then that's where it becomes a site where we can educate people on the version of history according to the Filipinos. So I'm Roberto Alabaro III, and currently I'm the Assistant Secretary for Tourism Development Planning. And it's fantastic to have an urban area, an old urban area, wherein maybe in our generation we can see this transformed into a more developed society where poverty will no longer exist within the walls of Intramuros.
Ang Intramuros sa akin ay mahalaga. Ito ay naniniwala ako, ito lang ang Old Manila na siya ay nagpalago ng Metro Manila. Ito yung prime mover ng urbanization din ng Metro Manila. Kung wala Intramuros, wala yung Metro Manila. Kasi dito nagsimula yung malalaking eskwelahan, malalaking building, lahat ng opisina ng gobyerno. Ito lang ang lugar na may walled city o Ciudad Morada na tinatawag. Kaya nandito yung mahalagang building, tao, dito lumago. Pero noong 1920 hanggang 1930, lumalabas na rin hanggang 1900, lumalabas na yung mayamang pamilya para magtayo ng malalaking bilya kasi masikip na rin Intramuros, mainit. Kailangan mag-expand, mga eskwelahan, lumabas sa Intramuros. Tulad na ng UST, lumabas siya noong 1927. Tapos yung mga iba pa, Ateneo de Manila, nasunog siya noong 1932. Tapos lumabas din siya. Sana magpatuloy, tuloy-tuloy na maayos sa Intramuros. Pagdating ng present generation, maayos sa Intramuros na wala nang masyadong problema. Kasi sa ngayon may mga kakagibat pa rin problema. Nandiyan pa rin mga ibang informal settler na may na-relocate na kami, yung mga istansa. Siguro dadami pa ang turista sa atin kasi mabubuksan natin yung sa gitna. Tapos yung mga pavement ayos. Tapos yung mga travel ng tao, foreigner, ay mapapabilis kasi marami nagpapaliwanag. Sa ngayon, dumadami na. May bike na, may e-trike, may kalesa na. Marami na nag-aano sa Intramuros kasi ngayon, nagiging ano na to, parang tuwing may Manila tour, laging Intramuros ang priority ng Department of Tourism, Heritage. Ako nga pala si Mr. Reynaldo Cadiz, nagtatrabaho sa Intramuros ng almost 40 years, from 1979 hanggang ngayon. Naging restoration inspector din ako sa Intramuros kasi lahat ng mga ginagawang restoration, idinaanan ko from stone cutting, tapos pagbubuhos, proper document. Bago siya gawin, babaklasin muna namin yung mga lumang bato, tapos papalitan namin, mga may crack na, papalitan namin ng bago. Minsan, nung early part ng documentation namin, naglalagay din kami ng mga number sa bato para maibalik namin yung structure sa dating ayos. Napaka-importante in Intramuros kasi ito yung ano natin eh. Sa buhay ko napakahalaga to kasi dahil sa Intramuros nandito ako nagtrabaho 40 years, naging tanungan ako ng mga pangyayari dito na bagamat hindi ko inaabot iba, yung mga archaeology, tunnel na nahukay, mga artifacts. Tinatanong ako, mga nahukay ng mass grave, halos lahat building na nirestore, kung ano ba yung mga dating opisina dito ng pre-war. Kasi nagbasa din ako ng mga libro na about sa archives namin. Tapos yung mga old photo, napakahusay ko mag-identify kasi kabisado ko yung old photo and then in new, yung pagkakaiba.
As a child, I would frequent Intramuros because of our educational field trip. We would usually go to the Manila Cathedral. So it's part of my childhood memory. Little did I know that after many years, I would be a resident of Intramuros. Cathedral started as a small parish church here in the same spot in 1571. When we talk of Manila, especially during the Spanish times, it was Intramuros. And the Manila Cathedral is in the heart of Manila, which is Intramuros, being the first cathedral in the Philippines, the center of Philippine governance. This was also the center of Philippine faith. Religion, especially Christianity, is not just about doctrines. Religion is about relationship. Young people are so engrossed in an activity, especially when they see that what they are doing is something that benefits others. And I think the church provides them with many opportunities for that. I wish that Intramuros to be a place where tourists are enriched when it comes to their discovery of their faith. I am Father Reginald R. Malikdem. I am the rector of the Manila Cathedral since July of 2015. Little did I know that after many years, I would be asked to take care of Mother Church of the Philippines of Intramuros.
Very unique, one of its kind. It's a historical zone, actually. No? You have lots of museums in and out of the walls. No? Jaime Jimmy Lim. I've started doing business here in 1988. I opened a small retail shop catering to Mapua students just in front of OWA, Overseas Worker Welfare Administration. And my main customer is Mapua. So now we thought of putting up this training center institute right in the heart of Intramuros. No? What better place, because it is a university hub. As you can see, we have 5 universities here and 1 middle school. We need more of this current administrator to see a better Intramuros. No? I'm very happy right now with the current administrator. Then what I hope for is a cleaner Intramuros. I hope all the stakeholders inside Intramuros will come together. We cannot all be leaders. Let's just follow the leader who is giving us the right direction.
Ang Eskwela Talyer, ito yung nagbigay sa akin ng pangalawang pagkakataon na ayusin lahat. Tinutulungan kami para ma-develop yung mga skills namin para magkaroon kami ng kakayahan na gumawa ng sarili rin naming pagkakakitaan. Ang natapos ko dito ay carpentry and woodworks, tsaka painting and finishing. Ako si Romel Rivera. Graduate ako ng Eskwela Talyer ng batch 7. Ma-improve siguro yung pakikipag-connecta ng mismong Intramuros administration sa community, yung mas mas mapatibay pa. Pagdadagdag pa sa mga pwedeng magamit na parte ng Intramuros. Yung trabaho ng mama ko kasi dito sa San Agustin Church, parish coordinator siya, kaya pa lang yun, hindi pa ako pinapanganak, nandun na siya. Intramuros, na sa akin to, parang mahal ko yung lugar na yun kasi dito ako pinanganak eh. Ayun na yung pinakabahay ko, hindi lang yung bahay na tinutulugan ko sa loob. Yung mismong Intramuros, siya na yung pinakabahay ko, yung mismong pader. Safe ako pag nasa loob.
Early during the Marcos administration, Mrs. Marcos had been interested in the restoration of Intramuros. She led the restoration of some of the gates of Intramuros. Mrs. Marcos got the engineering divisions of the different services of the military. There were lots of objections. I'd call the attention of President Marcos. So he asked me to draft a charter for Intramuros, which is what I did, and that is the Intramuros Administration Charter. The greatest satisfaction I had was the presence of a good team headed by Mrs. Esperanza Gatmonton, and in the early days also Felix Imperial, because basically the three of us were the ones who set the initial directions of the Intramuros administration. It's important because it's part of our history, part of our heritage, one of the few physical evidences remaining of the Spanish period of Philippine history. I think the major development since that time was the proliferation of informal settlers. And it seems to me that the proper and humanitarian relocation of those informal settlers is critical to the future progress of Intramuros. I'm Jaime Laya, and I think the directions of the development of Intramuros embodied in the administration charter continue to be relevant.
Sa akin, special yung Intramuros dahil sa punong-puno ng historical yung Intramuros. Napamahal na rin po ako dito sa Intramuros dahil dito po ako nagtatrabaho. Ako po si Christian Roa. Ako po isang security guard ng Intramuros bilang isang katipunero po. Naitutulong ko po dito sa Intramuros na mapanatili po yung mga kalinisan, kaayusan, at matiwasay na pagpapatupad. Ni-expect ko po dito sa Intramuros dahil po sa lalong tumatagal, gumaganda siya at dumarami yung mga turista na bumibisita dito.
Dahil po sa isang hanap buhay na marangal na nagpipidikab. Dati po akong waiter ng Tamayos Catering. Ngayon, nagpipidikab na po ako dahil marami pong turista dito sa loob ng Intramuros. Nandito po ako sa Intramuros, 1994. Bukod po sa pagpipidikab, tinitrain po kami ng DOT sa pag-guide ng tour and guide sa Intramuros. Sa darating na panahon, marami pa pong mga improvement ang Intramuros dahil sa IA, sa maintenance, sa kalinisan, kaayusan. Good morning po, ako po si Gerald Avillar. Ang trabaho po dito ay nagpipidikab. Ang gusto pang mangyari dito sa loob ng Intramuros ay ma-improve yung kagandahan, maraming matulungan na barangay.
Ang Intramuros, isa sa pinakamahalagang lugar dito sa buong Pilipinas. Ito ay isa sa pinaka-historical place. Ay naitutulong ng isang kutsero ay may turo sa mga bawat namamasyal kung anong mahalagang lugar dito sa Intramuros. Mga rule ng mga kutsero ay kailangan panatili, malinis ang lugar, tapos mag-uniforme, at sundin ang mga tuntunin ng Intramuros. Dito sa Intramuros, sana isang araw o bawat isang linggo, bigyan nila ng mga libre na mga lugar para lalong pasyalan ng mga mamamasyal dito sa Intramuros. Yung iba kasi namamasyal dito, hindi nakakapasok sa mga lugar-lugar kasi may mga bayan. Ako po pala si Romeo M. Javier, bilang isang kutsero at bilang isang tour guide sa Intramuros. Dito rin ako nabubuhay at nabubuhay ang aking pamilya. Kaya malaking tulong
Good afternoon, everyone. We are about to start in a few moments. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 48th episode of the Intramuros Learning Sessions. This is your host, Rancho, Arcilla, and this episode is brought to you by the Intramuros Administration. Now, this is a very special day for all of us. Today is Earth Day. And to commemorate and to celebrate this event, we're going to have a talk titled Healthy Parks, Healthy People. So this is a short discussion on the Healthy Parks, Healthy People approach, which reinforces the crucial role that parks and protected areas play in nurturing ecosystems. Now, before we start, some house rules first. So, if you are viewing via Zoom, you may raise your questions in the question and answer button below the screen. If you are viewing via Facebook right now, you may raise your questions in the comment section below. Note that only those who have successfully registered and viewed on Zoom will be eligible to get a certificate, and a feedback form will be emailed to you after the session. Of course, a certificate will be sent within a week. Note that this webinar is recorded, of course, and that the recording shall be made permanently available in IA's social media. Now, for our presenter today, for our guest speaker, may I present Ms. Nella Lomotan. So Ms. Nella is an entrepreneur and environmental conservationist. She is founder of Eco Explorations, co-founder and managing director of the Philippine Parks and Biodiversity, co-founder of Soul Speak Mindfulness and Yoga Retreats, and was formerly the corporate social responsibility head of the Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf. She was also previously a climate ambassador of the Global Climate Youth Network. She is also currently a consultant for the Biodiversity Finance Initiative Project of the United Nations Development Program and the Department of Environment and Natural Resources in the Philippines. And she is also part of the World Urban Parks Asia Pacific Committee. Ms. Nelia has a certificate in sustainable tourism from the Global Sustainable Tourism Council and is currently undertaking the world's first climate-friendly travel diploma from the Institute of Tourism Studies in Europe under SunX program to supplement studies. And finally, Ms. Lomotan was also a finalist for the Landscape Heroes Award 2020. So, without further ado, Ms. Nelia, ready when you are.
Thank you, Rancho, and happy Earth Day again to all. It's always so great to come together as a community, continue to learn together, and to share insights and knowledge, and to convene regarding a shared advocacy, which is our love for not just the Philippines, not just the environment, but for Mother Nature as a whole. Right? So thank you again for having me today. It's Earth Day, so happy Earth Day sa lahat from wherever you are. Sige, so Rancho, magpe-present na ba ako?
Yes.
Okay. So, ayan, present na pala tayo. So, thank you again for having me, Intramuros. For today, as everyone knows, it's Happy Earth Day. It's Earth Day, and the theme is Restore Our Earth. So, for many of us, we know that the Earth in general has gone through degradation in the past decades, from mountains, forests, including our urban cities. And the theme basically highlights the need to come together as a society to restore what has been lost, to do our part in creating solutions and innovative programs to be able to restore the biodiversity that we have lost in our fragile ecosystems. So it's a very, very important discussion today. and the timeliness with Intramuros, because we will focus on restoring urban cities. So of course, alam natin na even our urban cities have gone through degradation in terms of urban development. And so we need to continue to foster sustainable development wherever we are, integrating green practices and policies and programs to ensure that we keep our environment healthy, and not just our environment but ourselves, which is actually the core topic of today, which is healthy parks, healthy people, and I'll be sharing that with you later on. So just to share about our NGO very, very quickly so you have an idea. So Philippine Parks and Biodiversity is a nonprofit NGO. Our primary focus is to conserve and protect Philippine biodiversity by promoting the sustainable development of parks, protected areas, and the restoration of ecosystems for present and future generations. We develop or we apply a 360-degree and a multi-sectoral approach to conservation, because we believe that it's a shared responsibility. We can't be operating in silos. So we actually work with citizens, academia, civil society, the private sector, and our government, adopting a multi-stakeholder dynamic approach to conservation. Specifically, we empower local grassroots communities in the front lines of conservation, because while we are an NGO that focuses on conservation, we wouldn't be where we are without the various forest and wildlife rangers, people's organizations, and communities that we work with. And they're a very, very important part of conservation. Uh, Today, it's Earth Day. The theme is Restore the Earth, right? And our organization is actually championing the Generation Restoration Philippines movement. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but 2021 to 2030 is the decade of ecosystem restoration. And so we're creating and launching a platform soon which will rally all sectors of society and all Filipinos, whether you're an environmental group, you're an LGU, you're an academe, you're an individual with or a family with a private land, and you want to restore that into a healthier state, and all concerned sectors basically. So we really want to be able to champion this hand in hand with the key restoration players all over the Philippines. And part of that restoration is greening our cities. I'm from Manila, back and forth Manila and Palawan, and living in a place where there's so much nature in Palawan, coming back here for a few months, I would really have to say na shock yung body ko, because the difference in air quality is and basically the overall quality in terms of the environment that we're surrounded in is very, very different. And I'm sure a lot of you guys who have been stuck at home the past year from the pandemic, kaya nga umusbong yung plantita movement, right? Would know that this is the truth, that we can no longer keep developing in a way that isn't sustainable. We really need to green our cities and move towards that direction. And so that's part of the generation restoration. So that's why the topic today focuses on healthy parks and healthy people, and why we all have a role to play in making that happen. So I just want to ask, this is the part where syempre I know that it's always more fun, right? When you actually get to talk to people live and meron interaction. But I want to take this time to ask you guys, and you can type away from your mobile phones or your laptops, why do we need nature? Just a simple question. I'd love to see what you say there. Why do we need nature? Nakita nga yung mga chat. Why do you need nature? Thank you, Sir Jose Lim, to provide our needs. Of course, that is correct. How about the others would love? We are a part of nature. We are stewards of the earth. Of course. Life. We are one. It's a place where we live for survival, our home. We cannot exist without it. To have balance of life, it provides harmony. Okay, all of these are correct, right? Why we need nature. Nature gives life to us in many, many ways, which I will also be sharing later on, the source of life. So, tama naman po lahat ng sinabi, nature or pamana to the next generation, Sir Angelo. Yes. So keep them coming. Would love to continuously hear your thoughts of why we need nature. So we need nature because of a lot of a variety of reasons, right? Na nasabi niyo na, we need it to survive, we need it to, we're one. I don't know bakit nandito yung photo na to, but I think na-mix up siya. But later I will talk about it. Basically, so, right, when you talk about biodiversity, that's all forms of life, right? So kasama ko, kasama yung mga wildlife, right? The plants and animals that we're part of an ecosystem of. And when you talk about urban biodiversity, it's the variety and richness of living organisms, including genetic variation and habitat diversity, found in and on the edge of human settlements. So at the landscape and habitat level, it includes remnants of natural landscapes, your forest park that's remaining, railway areas, formal parks and gardens, brown fields, meadows, areas of arable land. So urban biodiversity, like a lot of you guys have said, and biodiversity as a whole provides us with a variety of benefits and ecosystem services, as we call it. So first is, which I will discuss later on in more detail, is health and well-being. So I took some photos of some parks around Metro Manila. So you have Intramuros, right? You have Rizal Park. So increased happiness and subjective well-being, positive social interactions, cohesion, and engagement. Because when you can convene in nature, the feeling of it brings when you convene in something where there's so much greenery, it's known to really stir up and simulate positive interaction, a sense of meaning and purpose in life. Personally, going to nature has really given me a lot of, as I mentioned, purpose. Initially it was just really to see the beauty out there, to experience greenery. But as it grew deeper, I also experienced more meaning as a conservationist specifically. Improved manageability of life tasks. It says that a lot of studies show that it positively affects various aspects of cognitive function, memory and attention, impulse inhibition, children's school performance, as well as imagination and creativity. And if these are benefits that nature has given to you, please do raise your hand, share what nature is to you. Would love to share. Would love to know about that. And improve sleep. Studies show that it has decreased the risk for mental illness. Sleep problems and stress are major risk factors for mental illness, especially depression. Another benefit of urban biodiversity is temperature and climate change. So large parks containing many trees with wide canopies and minimal pavings reduce the urban heat island effect the most. So before, I used to work in BGC, and the BGC and even Makati, right? For those who are here from Manila, and there's so much concrete around, right? Buildings. And I really remember, lalabas pa lang ako, maglalakad lang saglit, pawis na ako, just like walking from crossing the road, because there weren't much trees. That's a fact, right? But you notice that when you're surrounded by trees, it really feels cooler. The air is really cooler and crisper, and it really makes a difference. And so that's what trees do. Aside from it providing health and well-being, positive effects to your health and well-being, it reduces the urban heat island effect. So these are some green spaces in the metro with canopies of trees, and large trees surrounding the development. But imagine what life would be if our city was like this. Singapore is aiming to be the green city in nature. This is Berlin in Germany. You could just Google top 10 green cities in the world, and you'd really be inspired about the kind of development that they have that really fosters nature and human relationships because of how everything was planned out in that way. And wouldn't you want to live in a place like this? I'm not saying that Manila is not desirable. Of course, I love Manila. But I'm saying that we could, really dream together towards a vision where Manila is greener. Of course, as mentioned earlier, air quality. So urban air pollution consists of tiny particles known as particulate matter and gases such as ozone, nitrogen dioxide, and sulfur dioxide. And these pollutants are formally made as a result of vehicle and industrial emissions. So here you see the photo, but just compare from the top and the bottom, right? The difference. And so trees are the most effective type of vegetation for capturing pollutants. In street canyons, shorter vegetation or green walls are more beneficial for local air quality. So this is also taken again from Singapore, one of my inspirations for a green city. Flooding and water quality. In urban areas, the impermeable materials used for roads and pavements mean that rain is not absorbed and remains on the surface. So during periods of heavy rainfall, this water accumulates, and when drainage capacity of the area is exceeded, flooding will occur. So this picture on the right is actually a perfect representation of what happens, right? So you can see that with less green space, with less trees, with less foliage, there's a reduced groundwater replenishment, and there's an increased runoff to the waterways, which causes the flooding. So urban green spaces store and filter water, reducing the risk of flooding and improving water quality in streams, lakes, and rivers. And one of my favorites, urban birding and seeing wildlife everywhere. So wildlife and habitats, of course, these green spaces create wildlife corridors where when you link together large parks, one after another, it provides links also to rural areas on the outskirts of towns and cities, and it facilitates the movement of your wildlife, such as birds, right, and insects and other animals. So it prevents the fragmentation and isolation of wildlife. So example, some species become extinct because because of the example in mountains, right? The forest degradation. Because example, if there's not a lot of forest to move around, so this species of bird or animal or any wildlife, to say, is restricted to a certain patch. So hindi siya nakakagalaw masyado, and so the quality of life and also the areas to eat, to get food, nababawasan. And that's why with the loss of habitat comes the loss of species, because there's not much moving space around anymore for this precious wildlife. And of course, economic impacts. So it's been said and proven actually that residential and commercial properties overlooking green spaces are valued at around 5 to 7% higher than equivalent properties elsewhere. And of course, it generates employment opportunities. For example, you have a park, so definitely you need urban park. So definitely you need park managers and different staff to manage that and to make sure that there's proper and effective management, as mentioned. So that also boosts green jobs, which is also what we need to gear towards. And tourism. So, of course, apart from potentially promoting the health and well-being of visitors, tourism is of local of interest. So, you see here Central Park in New York, the gardens by the bay in Singapore. These are prime destinations, tourist destinations, and of course, our very own Intramuros, right? So, these are very known destinations on an international scale. So, it's important for that as well, to speed up and boost economic recovery and be a holding place for both foreigners and locals alike. So those are a lot of the benefits, just some of the benefits of why we need urban biodiversity, right? And parks specifically are places where this type of biodiversity can really be fostered. So I want to talk about the healthy parks and healthy people approach. And this approach has actually been out there since the World Congress, Parks Congress in 2014. I'm curious, whose first time is it to know about this or to hear about the healthy parks, healthy people approach? Maybe you guys can raise your hand if it's your first time, and that's okay if it's your first time. How can I see the participants? There, okay, first time. A lot of first timers to hear about the healthy parks, healthy people approach. Also a lot of those who have heard about it. That's great. Okay, so let me just raise that again. Okay, so earlier I asked you, right? So why do we need nature? And maybe you could share, what does being in nature make you feel? Let's use this chat box again because, as mentioned, it's so much nicer to be able to converse with you guys and to share discussions. But right now we're limited to this. So what does being in nature make you feel? If you can, again, it energizes me, refreshes, definitely. Makes you feel alive, relaxed. Feel relaxed by just seeing the trees. Yes, the term forest bathing. So that really is proven to really become great for the mental and physical well-being. Peace of mind, distress, calm, makes me happy. Makes me happy too. You feel loved by your surroundings, helps with my eyesight when looking at the screen for a long time. You feel blessed. Yeah, that same, Sir Jose. I feel blessed also being nature. That you're a part of something big. In this grand scheme of things, there's so much out there that's alive, relieved from the stress. So thank you for sharing that. And these are just some of the reasons why nature is important. You've created many good points, and we really need nature in our day-to-day lives. I believe that's also why one of the reasons why, diba, when people in Manila or in the Philippines were cooped up in their home environments, this plantita movement started to emerge because you want to be close to nature, and that's our roots. So the Healthy Parks, Healthy People approach actually highlights that our contact with nature is essential for human, emotional, physical, and spiritual health and well-being. And I truly, truly believe in this because just parang konting days lang na wala akong nature, talagang parang nag-iiba yung mood ko. So here, what I do is kahit, since, it's an urban city, what I do is I try to take a walk, kahit ano lang, kahit basta maarawan, just getting the sun, it really rejuvenates me. Just looking at trees, buti na lang sa big nara tree beside my house, and just looking at it and being beside it really makes me feel energized. And so everything that you guys said, it really reaffirms this. The Healthy Parks, Healthy People approach highlight. So it acknowledges the vital importance of conserving and enhancing our natural world so that ecological processes on which life depends are maintained and the total quality of life now and in the future can be improved. So these are, for those who have joined us today and haven't heard about the Healthy Parks Healthy People approach. These are actually recommendations for improving health and well-being in the city. And there's a lot of recommendations, but I would like to focus on some of this for this specific talk. So first is we need to continue to build the evidence base on the connections between health and nature through knowledge and research using accepted methodologies. I'll break this down in case, what does that mean, evidence based on the connections between health and nature? So earlier, right, I said, and I shared with you guys that there are mental and emotional benefits to the well-being of an individual because of urban biodiversity and nature. And technically, what this first recommendation is saying is that we really need to invest more in proving our point with regards to why we need nature. So it's not just example, right? A lot of research and development is being done for medicine, for the vaccines everywhere, and for various studies in medicine. But why can't we do the same in terms of providing evidence and science base for why nature is good for us? Because if you only if you make the case, let's say example, you're approaching a local government and you want to change or help collaborate to work with frameworks, and you just tell them, no, we need nature. So what's your evidence base? What's your data to prove your point that we need nature? Aside from, of course, we all know we need nature, but if we have the evidence, like example, there's a lot of scientific studies done globally and abroad. To be honest, I haven't seen a lot here. So if there are any doctors here or any health professionals, let's talk, because this is something that we also need to build, right? Creating the science and evidence base, like they would really do lots of surveys across thousands of people and scientific studies, journals. Example this, spending at least 120 minutes a week in nature is associated with good health and well-being. So there's at least data that says it, right? And how nature can make you kinder, happier, more creative. And then they present studies that suggest that nature can help the brains and bodies to stay healthy, how it's good for health and happiness. And so this is important, especially now. It's more so now because with how the COVID pandemic has really made us appreciate that we need nature. Of course, it's always been there, but that's also one of the I wouldn't say that the COVID pandemic is a positive thing, right? But I mean, there's also something great that it brought, which is, I mean, not the great that it brought, but there's also a positive, which is this. It made us realize more, and more people wanted to create policies that would help protect nature. So again, we need to continue to build the evidence base and the connections between health and nature through knowledge and research. And this is critical into pioneering the healthy parks, healthy people approach. Second is to learn from indigenous and local communities, which have multidimensional approaches to health and well-being, including connection to country and spiritual and traditional knowledge and practices. So, I am the river is me. This statement really captures how the indigenous peoples look at nature. I remember in one of our project sites in Mount Iglit, Bako, the Tamarao Rangers that we work with, and they're protecting the Tamarao, one of the world's most critically endangered animals, and it can only be found here in Mindoro. And we asked them, why is this important to you, right? Bakit mahalaga itong ginagawa? And what they said was, kung walang Tamarao, walang Mangyan, meaning the Mangyan indigenous. And kung walang Mangyan, walang Tamarao. So they really see that their identity belongs to nature and is linked to the nature around them, that they're one. And I think that this is very critical for us in this time and age, that we see that we are one. Someone said earlier in the chat, right, that we are one. Life is one, and that is true. And the moment we really recognize this, then the more we can come together to provide solutions to conserve what we have. So it's a very, very powerful. I'm really moved by how the indigenous look at the land that they live in. That it's not just a tree. They're one. This tree is me, and I am the tree. And it's just so amazing. It's so inspiring, and I think that that's something that we could always embody as well as citizens of this planet. So this I am the river and the river's me is actually also a unique case of awarding a river legal personhood, and this was in New Zealand. So basically, parang ginawa nilang legal person yung river, and it makes the natural feature legal person, including holding title to the land, and that really enabled them to become guardians of that place and to really speak for that place. The example, the river. So, like, is this us? I mean, just applying the principle of I am the river and the river is me. Are we just about development, that we forget our roots, that we forget really where we come from? Who are we as beings? Have we forgotten our ancestral lineage and where we came from? So, a lot of it is also reflection, right, about our history, and also about who we really are as individuals. I guess it's something to ponder on, and I always ask myself that as well. So also with regards to indigenous, right, of course, these indigenous, like, they go to the forest and the plants are there that make them survive. This is where they get their medicine. That's food, edible food, wild food, non-timber forest products that help them live. We default to the ways and wisdom of the indigenous because they've been here from generation to generation, and their practices and programs have survived the test of time. And so there's something to learn from them. Why not create spaces where we could plant here all around our urban cities, plant medicinal trees, right? Fruit-bearing trees, and really, aside from native trees, of course, why not we do that? And let's learn from the indigenous. 3 is strengthen the global, regional, national, and local policies to promote nature's role in health and well-being and to address the universal right to nature for health. Yes, it's a right. Our right to nature for health is a right. And so what we need to do is to strengthen the policies. We need to inspire or encourage this movement where our government is making this a priority, the same way that it's a priority for each of us because it affects all of us. So there are actually various laws already that really promote this, the sustainable urban development. So you have in Presidential Decree number 953, every owner of land that, subdivided into residential, commercial, industrial, shall develop and maintain not less than 30% of the total area of the subdivision, exclusive of roads, service streets, and alleys, as open space for parks and recreational areas. So there's also the House Bill 6047, an act establishing public recreational spaces in all cities and municipalities in the country, and its integration in the respective comprehensive land use plans. Under Section 4, every city and municipality in the country has to have one recreational space. So this is an open space made determined by the implementing agency. So of course, these are also should be public. It should be enjoyed by all citizens. There was also the new urban agenda in 2017, which is a roadmap for building cities that can serve as engines of prosperity and centers of cultural and social well-being while protecting the environment. Just to share statement 37 of that, this is a roadmap for leaders of global city of all cities around the globe, and basically these leaders commit themselves to promoting safe, inclusive, accessible, green, and quality public spaces, multifunctional areas for social interaction and inclusion, human health and well-being, economic exchange and cultural expression and dialogue, and to ensure human development and build peaceful, inclusive, and participatory societies. So from that new urban agenda in 2017, the Philippines actually made a statement for a better, greener, smarter cities in an inclusive Philippines, reflective of the aspirations of millions of Filipinos for the future of their cities. These better cities are globally competitive, economically vibrant and livable. Greener cities are environmentally sustainable, climate resilient and safe. And smarter cities are connected physically, spatially, and digitally. So I guess there are great policies, there are great laws, there are great movements and programs. But I guess a question is, and this is just a question, is there an implementation gap in these policies? Because this was the Datos map, and it shows how much green space there is in Metro Manila. This was 2019. So that's a question. I believe that we could strengthen and work together to see policies come to fruition, that they're really implemented and applied across all kinds of developments in Metro Manila and beyond. We know that these environmental and health challenges, it poses significant threats not just to our health but also to security and economic development. So example, because of the deforestation in the Upper Marikina watershed and in other watersheds in other areas that happened in the past, because of course government now is becoming more strict about protecting our forests, but because of what has happened in the past, we're becoming more prone to really extreme environmental events such as the Typhoon Ulysses and back-to-back typhoons, which flooded our cities in past months, which we saw. So that demonstrates also the costs of failing to act for the environment, because it's really a lot of that you spend and a lot of expense when you need to firefight against it instead of preventing and creating conducive environments to protect and to prevent that. So we need to revitalize the establishment, governance, and management of urban parks to improve biodiversity in urban cities and maximize human health and well-being outcomes. The fourth is to ensure that parks and protected areas offer diverse and inclusive opportunities for people to access and experience nature to improve their health and well-being. So this is one of my favorite places for urban parks. This is in New Zealand, and they have so much pockets of open green space where children, where families, where tourists, locals, anyone of any age can just come, relax, sit, read a book, chill there and hang out, and it's very, very amazing. That's something that we would like to see, I believe, here in Metro Manila and beyond, where we have more parks where people are free to enter and generate happiness, where everyone feels welcome and feels a sense of belonging. They should be free and accessible to everyone, regardless of age, ability, or background. So we have several parks, Arroceros, Intramuros, Nina Aquino parks, I think some parks in Makati. But it has to be accessible for everyone, right? Hindi yung ang layo-layo before you get to a park. You live in, example, this city, walang park doon, walang any green open space, so you have to travel 1 hour away just to go to a green space. There's something that we need to change with that. So other cities all around the globe are very, very, they've taken that into consideration. So it's super amazing to see, and that we need that, right? Regardless of whether you're a PWD, you're a child, and regardless of what sector you're in, the park needs to be a space for all. And fifth is to establish and nurture coalitions of practitioners, policymakers, change leaders, and researchers from diverse sectors to accelerate health and nature approaches at local, national, regional, and global scales. So this is something that we can't do on our own. We need, let's say we need academe, we need science-based experts to conduct assessments of where we are and where we need to be, have evidence and data, science-based data, right? People from the health sector to come together to publish research and studies of how we need nature to implement policies. We need the government to support this movement and to make sure that whatever laws we have are really put into place. We need citizens to not demand, but to really demand this kind of development, because we need to all work together, right? And that's the main theme of Earth Day. It's restoring our Earth together. It's not one NGO, it's not one city, it's not the DNR only. It's not just one organization. It's all of us coming together to make this happen. So that's what it means. So just to share, right? I'll take this opportunity. And we'll open it up, I know, to Q&A, but just to share, like, example, nearby with our partners from Nayong Pilipino Foundation. So you see this, like, open space. You might just think that it's just an open space, but actually, if you think about the possibilities that it could be for hosting, for people coming together in an urban forest park to see trees, to experience nature, right? Birds. When we went here 2 months ago with the Wild Bird Club of the Philippines, that was a few months ago. Yeah, they've identified 20 plus birds of species in this ecosystem, and so there's a lot that you could. And imagine if we plant more native trees, because there's a lot of native trees that were found also that we're invasive. So we also need to rehabilitate with native trees. But the Sambayanihan project this 2021 will enjoin all sectors of society to come together to restore this, to see an urban forest park where anyone can roam, to be inspired by nature. For those who are interested, so we're super thankful to be part of the World Urban Parks Asia Pacific Committee. They're basically a network of the largest parks all over the globe, and there's so much learning from them. So if you want to join its Parks Week on April 24th to May 2, World Urban Parks, that's it. So hyperlocal, the term hyperlocal, these two questions we'd like to give to you, right? What do your local neighborhoods, communities have to offer? That's something to think about. Where I live, what does this landscape have to offer? Is there something that we could still do to nurture healthy landscapes? Not just about parks, but also the healthier communities. What do these local spaces mean to you? Is it just a place to sleep in where you work? What kind of community do you envision? These are questions that we need to ask ourselves as we aim to provide solutions and to work together to see the cities that we dream come to life. So thinking hyperlocal helps us to build deeper. So that's the theme of hyperlocal, and so we also invite you, for those who are interested, to join the World Parks Week from April 24 to May 2. So hopefully I was able to give you a snapshot of the healthy parks, healthy people approach, and that inspires you guys. I'm sure there's a lot to learn from a lot of people here, and for synergies and collaborations. Again, these are things that we need to do together, and we're looking forward to restoring our side of the planet together. So thanks for listening, and I open this up to an open forum and Q&A, insight, suggestions, and any questions you might have. Thank you again to the Intramuros administration for having me today.
Thank you so much for that, Ms. Delia. So we now proceed with the question and answer part of our webinar. So if you have any questions, feel free to raise them. So if you are viewing via Zoom, you can just go to the chat button or the Q&A button below. Or if you're viewing via Facebook, you may key in your questions in the comment section also. Right. So thank you, Ms. Nelia, for that very inspiring presentation. Now you inspire us because you, as a conservationist, promote this approach, the Healthy Parks, Healthy People approach, which is, of course, new to most of us here. Now, if I may, how were you able to start in conservation work? What inspired you? I mean, how did you start?
So it's very personal how it started. That's why I believe that you bring nature to people and it will really transform them. So just to share, I'm a mountaineer. So initially, in the earlier decade, so parang hindi naman to about the numbers, right? But so I climbed more than 100 mountains in the Philippines. I have big calves. As much as I'm a girl, talagang I love exploring. And it's in exploration that opened my eyes to how much beauty we have in the Philippines. Kasi living in Metro Manila, parang, ano ba yung meron dyan outside before when I was younger? And then when I started to explore all these mountains, when I really immersed in our community, saw the biodiversity, the Philippines is one of the most mega biodiverse countries in the world. So in terms of flora and fauna, a lot of endemic and endangered species that only belong here. Sorry, endemic and unique species. So seeing that really opened my eyes. That's my conservation journey. Especially nakakasalamuha yung mga rangers natin, the forest and wildlife defenders. Hearing their stories, as mentioned earlier, diba, yung I am the river and the river is me. And sa Tamara Ranger, that's what they said. That's what they really uphold. Walang tamaraw, walang mangyan, walang tamaraw. And seeing their dedication to conservation, to protect what we have, it really, really inspired my journey. So as a conservationist, I'm not here to just conserve the environment. I'm here to give a voice to our wildlife and forest defenders on the ground who are protecting what we have and to support them to the best of my ability. So that's it. So even in dun sa mga urban cities, you know, it could stimulate green jobs, right? If you have park rangers in these urban parks who care for the environment and managing these urban parks, then they're the front lines in conservation and we need them.
We hear the word conservation a lot. How does it differ from environmental advocate and activist? Conservation
Okay.
activist.
So advocate, let's say, kunwari, I saw someone here, he's a participant, si Nico Perez. He's an advocate. So before, nag-join lang din siya ng webinars namin sa PH Parks. And then after, siya na yung nagsasalita about our programs, and then naging advocate siya, na siya na din yung nagsispread ng word about environment in a very positive and uplifting way, right? So that's, ayan, thank you daw Ate Nella, nandyan siya. So yan, naging advocate namin siya. So now he's also championing that. Sa activist naman, well, I know kasi there's like a negative connotation, right, to activists. Pero hindi ba na parang you're just taking action? I mean, that's my 2 cents. You know, no matter how it is na parang aktivista yan eh, hindi naman. It's more of like for me, it's like you're more, parang mas malakas yung opinion mo when it comes to defending like these position points. So that's just my 2 cents about it. I don't know if others agree, but yun siya.
And both of them are conservationists.
What's that?
Both of them are conservationists as
So,
well.
so conservationist, you're really doing something to conserve, right, the environment. So, nasa forest conservation ka, so nagmamanage ka ng forest, tapos pwede din naman, of course, I don't want to be very limited. Kasi, kunwari, let's say some people think, kunwari, let's say you're adopting a plant-based lifestyle because you don't want agricultural waste, and to you, that's conservation. So, let's not be limited by what conservation is. It's really more of like what you do, diba? The actions that you take to conserve wherever you are. So yung mga iba naman, diba, sa plastic waste, right? So parang they really try a zero waste lifestyle. That still makes them a conservationist because they're reducing their waste, diba? They're reducing their negative impact and really contributing to having more eco-friendly approaches.
Thank you so much for that. The Healthy Parks, Healthy People approach is quite new to most of us here. How is it different from other green approaches?
Well, I guess sinabi niyo na pa lang na it's different from other approaches because, like, example, the Healthy Parks, Healthy People approach really considers nga that, kunwari, you say sometimes, oh, let's conserve nature for para sa wildlife na nakatira doon. This time, we really look at it as it affects us as human beings, right? It's something that has to be to consider that na hindi siya just about conserving wildlife, hindi siya just because we want a beautiful tree there, hindi siya ganon, just because for aesthetics. We're really considering that to have a healthy park is to have a healthy life, to have a healthy self. And so, diba, I shared with you guys na 2014 pa to daw. 2014 actually, 2015 nung na-publish yung Healthy Parks, Healthy People approach. But until now, as you mentioned, it's new to you. Diba, it's 2021. So there's still a lot that we can do in terms of promoting it, in terms of pioneering it and spreading it, and it's still a lot that we could do together.
Thank you so much for that. And we hope that this webinar is also contribution of IA towards the promotion of the Healthy Parks, Healthy People approach. Now, when you say healthy park, do you have any species in mind? Do you have preference for local flora perhaps, or anything goes?
So, for those, I don't know, meron ba ditong scientists, taxonomists, botanists? So, with us, we promote the use of native species. Native trees, native plants, so something, kasi if you start to introduce, kunwari mga trees, let's say the fire tree, it's actually an invasive species, and it's not from here. So, why do we, pero, di ba, pampaganda siya, yung fire tree, I mean, madami na minsan nagpo-post about it, pero hindi siya native to our country. And why do we want native trees? Kasi earlier, di ba, I mentioned several things such as urban biodiversity. So, example, this is what has been growing native in the land. So, because of that, also, you attract the native birds and the native wildlife that depend on this. So, ganun. Isa lang yun sa mga specifications. But we've seen kasi several greening projects that use invasive species. And so we need to also continue to promote the use of native trees, native pollinators, native plants, as to how we design the environment. So what is really from here? What is from the Philippines? Aside from the mga technical stuff like the mga invasive species are toxic and nagsisip in ng mga water from the surrounding native species. Medyo technical na yun. But that's just one of the reasons why.
Thank you for that. We have a question from Eric Apidono. So, if you know the answer to this, how much do you think does it cost in the Philippines to create and maintain at least 1,000 square meters of park?
So, hi, Eric. I guess it depends. Like, what kind of developments can we make there? I mean, of course, again, it has to be sustainable. Na parang, are you putting like a small playground for children, pero it's surrounded by green trees, di ba? Meron ka bang landscaping? Are you putting benches so people? It depends on your, of course, your layout and your plans for that park. So hindi ko masagot yung how much does it cost to create. Pero if you want, maybe you can collaborate with the city of San Juan or Mandaluyong.
You forgot. Now, aside from the obvious effects on the quality of life of people, what do you think are the direct economic benefits of having a park in an area?
So earlier, right, I mentioned yung sa tourism. So that's one because, like example, yung mga Central Park, diba? And you have the Intramuros, diba? It's one of your known tourism destinations here in the Philippines. So that's an economic benefit of our parks, right? So ano siya, that could bring, and you provide jobs. Like example, in Intramuros, ilan ini-employ nyo? Especially nung pre-pandemic, right? I mean, di ba, pupunta sila doon, meron kang kainan. so iba-iba. But that's one that it boosts some economic gains. And also, of course, as mentioned earlier, then sa mga, let's say, you have the green jobs, those who are managing the park, right, who you employ.
We have a question from Angelo Venus. Thanks po, Ms. Lomotan. My question is, ano na po ang status ng House Bill ni El Villafuerte? I mean, translated na po ba siya into a Republic Act?
Actually, yung yung House Bill na yan was passed on nung a few years ago, and parang ano pa lang siya, nandun pa lang siya. Hindi pa siya like na-translate into a Republic Act. Na-receive siya. So, yon.
Was the House Bill of El Villafuerte the first of its kind? I mean, is it the first effort?
In terms of the first effort, I don't know kung siya yung first effort. Oo. Pero, definitely there have been policies that have been tried to be pushed, right? So that's something that we need to strengthen even more.
We have a very specific question from Larnie Versosa. Is there any similarity about the relationship of the Mangyans and Tamaraos and the Dumagats in Angat?
Yeah, so hi Miss Larnie. I actually also work with the Dumagats in Ipo watershed. So Ipo, Angat, La Mesa, these are where we get our water, right, in Metro Manila. And it's the same. The Dumagats, as mentioned, I mean, like, similar to the Mangyan and the Tamarao, it's the same with the Dumagat, how they view the forest. Talagang yan yung buhay nila. Hindi yan yung parang, hindi lang yan yung kung saan sila lumaki, but that's who they are. Their identity is nature. So there's a lot to learn from indigenous communities. Very, very inspiring. So yun, just to share. How about pets for parks? May mga questions dito na interesting. Yes, that's actually all over the globe. Ang mga parks, as mentioned, it's open to different sectors, and pets are also allowed. Pero what's good about other standards is merong mga, let's say, may protocols for pets. Let's say, example, naka-leash dapat, diba? If it poops, you need to at least pick up the, diba? Kasi syempre, madidegrade yung, I mean, it's not another person's, but there are different like policies when it comes to pets in parks, but definitely that's something that's being done in different parts of the globe. What would be the potential options to improve green health in a very congested city? So this has, I mean, in terms of potential, we're not only looking at yung, let's say, the open space, right? How about the buildings, diba? Vertical gardens, rooftops. So madami pang opportunities na hindi na-employ. We're not just talking about an urban park to green our areas, but there are a lot of innovations and programs that could be done. Luneta Park is the biggest park in Asia. I'm not sure actually. Tinignan ko na lang yung mga questions dun sa Q&A.
Yeah. Sige, thank you for that.
Sabi ni Ma'am Crisanta, to make it sustainable, we better start now. That's true. Diba? We need, this is kaya nga po, Ma'am Crisanta, this is the decade of ecosystem restoration, right? 2021. So let's all work together to make our dream city happen. I believe that it's possible kung majority here are from Manila or from other cities na kulang ng green space. We deserve, it's our right, diba? It's our right to healthy cities, and so let's all work together for that.
Thank you for that. For those who still want to ask questions, feel free to do so. So we have the Q&A.
Si Ma'am Larnie, there is a place where people converted into a park. What's that, Ma'am Larnie? Baka pwede niyong i-type. Tignan natin kung paano na-convert. Maybe it could be an inspiration.
Miss Belia Calleja said, yes, tama, Miss Nella. There's a lot of innovation and programs that we can do. Philippines is very beautiful and we can make it more beautiful. Kung gagawin talaga, and only if we help each other.
Doña Remendez Trinidad.
Miss Nelia, in terms of policies, do you think there are gray areas that still needs to be addressed aside from the House bill earlier?
Like I mentioned, it's a question mark in terms of the implementation gap of policies. Like example, yung 30% na wala dapat development, diba? Yung 30%, kunwari meron kang subdivision, dapat 30% is an open space. So kunwari it's an urban park. There's no study that shows kung nagagawa ba yon. But when you look at the Metro Manila map, bakit konti yung green space? Diba? So, I mean, even if kunwari itong sa proposed House bill, dun sa every city and municipality should have an open space, diba? Wala kasing data pa na nag-show about it, pero just given the map about the green spaces in the metro, I think there might be an implementation gap. So, I'm just saying I think. So, parang, because yun yung nakikita mo. So, again, as mentioned earlier, we need evidence-based. We need more data that shows to support our claims, to support this movement that we want. Pero, I guess, as someone who lives in the metro, hindi mo kailangan masyado ng data eh. Umikot ka lang dyan. We know that because we've been living here, diba? Our past lives. So I don't know with the other cities here though.
For those who are new to this topic, what would you, and of course would like to explore further, what can you recommend to them? Do you have any books, courses, videos in mind? So for those who are starting with this advocacy.
Yes. There's actually a lot of publications out there. So kunwari, one is joining webinars such as this, diba? If you want to learn more about it. There's a lot of publications from the IUCN, from the World Urban Parks. Kunwari, yung next week, merong series of events about World Urban Parks and the theme of hyperlocal. And seeing kasi globally what's done, it really provides inspiration about what can be done here in the Philippines. So that's one that I would recommend, is to never stop being curious, to keep learning, to see what's out there, what are the innovations that we can do here in the Philippines. Personally, that's also where I got a lot of inspiration as an individual, traveling the world and seeing, wow, ganito yung park systems in New Zealand or sa America, yung mga national parks nila ganito. And that's how I wanted to bring it here to the Philippines.
We have a question from Violeta Munoz. Do you have a tie-up with DENR? The reason I ask is because I think this department or related NGOs can present options to government agencies to use their funds on clean and green for an integrated greening projects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so actually, dun sa mga reforestation sites namin, we're really partners with DNR. Like example, in our Ipo watershed, so we adopted hectares of land from the government for reforestation. So they're a partner. In any place that we're partner, that we operate in, whether it's a watershed, we are partnered with them. So urban cities, that's something, since we really want to strengthen that this year, then that's something that we would really want the DNR to be involved in as well, sa urban biodiversity. So, but whatever we do, we tie up with the local DNR for our efforts. Kasi we need them. We need each other, right? Kasi they're also the main implementing body for all these policies, right? And as an NGO, we support and we try to change or to implement and innovate programs.
Next question is from Mira Serrano. How do we explain to some friends and family why it is better to have native plants?
So, ma'am, I'm part of this group. It's called the Native Tree Enthusiasts of the Philippines. And I would recommend that you join them there. So, there's really a lot. As in, nakakatuwa po, if you still aren't part of that, it's called the Philippine Native Tree Enthusiasts. And I would recommend that you make them join there. Make them become a member. It's already at 15,000 individuals. And as I mentioned, one of the ways in which you can keep learning is by exposing yourself more. So, kunwari for me, I got more exposed to nature, really learned more, and saw what needed to be done on hand. That's what inspired my conservation journey. So, I will type it here para sila ma-expose din sila to native trees and plants. Here. I will type it in here for everyone. I'm a member of this also, and we're partners. It's called the Philippine Native Tree Enthusiasts.
Thank you so much for that. We have a question from Wena Tuna. How can we convince policymakers to develop sustainable and green cities instead of building more roads or buildings? With the pandemic now, it is recommended to spend time in open spaces.
Yes.
I think this should be a wake-up call for us to save our existing parks and develop smaller urban community parks.
So, just to share, I don't know kung nakaabot ka po kanina, Ma'am Buena, yung dun po sa how could we convince is evidence-based. So, kasi minsan mahirap sabihin sa mga, parang, oh, we need nature. And then siguro sabihin, bakit? Why do we need nature? But, di ba kanina po yung isa sa mga recommendations is to provide evidence-based. So, kunwari, let's say, we really need to work with, let's say, the health sector, the researchers, academe, to provide valuable input. Why do we need parks? Lalo na now na health and well-being is a priority after the COVID pandemic or during the COVID pandemic recovery, di ba? Why does it help in terms of, kunwari, managing depression, on increasing mental health and well-being, on physical well-being? If we put together that data, at present, wala pa sa Philippines, but if we are able to put together those evidence-based studies, we could probably create a stronger presentation to LGU, right? Now, we need this because if you want healthy citizens in your LGU, ito yung mga data. Aside from that, tourism, di ba, as mentioned, napapataas yung economic value of certain real estates when it's closer to green spaces. Doon nga sa studies, 5 to 7% higher. Let's say, take Singapore, for example. Ang mahal tumira doon or bumili ng real estate. So, of course, we want naman na affordable din yung real estate natin. Diba? Baka hindi na tayo magkabahay dito sa Pilipinas or sa Manila. But it actually improves the economic and real estate value of the area if it's surrounded by greenery. Also take into consideration, kunwari, Marina Bay, the gardens by the bay, diba, in Singapore. That's like a global tourism destination. Na parang because of that, it has really created international applause and it's been known internationally. So don't we want that for the cities? Diba? Kunwari yung LGU mag-invest in a great urban park development. So it can attract tourism and also real estate value could be higher because of this urban park development. So you have health, economic values, and also the potential, right? And so I'm always, lagi sa akin sinasabi, if you want to work with government, some of the government, pag mga ganyan, speak in the language that they know as well, right? So we need to be able to present those data to them.
Thank you for that, Ms. Nelia. Now, if there are no more questions, maybe we can close the Q&A. But before we end the Q&A, last question po. What is your message to the youth who are just starting with conservation or who are thinking of starting in conservation?
Mhm. So my message for the youth is to be curious, to learn. That's really it. Kasi some people might be like, I don't know what to do, but parang I want to help, diba? It's okay. It's okay to just begin. But, it's always what really made me, or what really brought me purpose and brought me here was my desire to learn, to be curious about how can I improve systems in my country, right? Or how can I bring nature closer to the city, to any person. And so because of my curiosity, I really wanted to learn and learn and learn and expose myself more. And that's my main advice is to get out there. Okay, not naman out there kasi alam ko pandemic baka alam ko MECQ ko majority dito Manila, but to really expose yourself to learning and how you could become a more eco-conscious citizen, so that you can know also how you can contribute and what calls out to you most. I'm not trying to solve all environmental problems, by the way. I'm really focusing on parks and protected areas, right? And yung what we're focusing on in our NGO, kasi there's a lot. So what calls out to you the most? Sometimes to others it's plastic pollution, to others it's waste management, to others it's wildlife conservation. So when you're curious and you explore what's out there, you'll know what also calls out to you the most. So yun, that's my advice. And maybe you guys can also help out and follow our page, volunteer Philippine Parks and Biodiversity and Eco Explorations.
Thank you for that. Now we end our webinar. But before we go, I'd also like to promote our social media channels. The Intramuros Administration is available in Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And for those who missed this episode, so if you came in late or you were not able to watch this episode, feel free to go to our YouTube channel. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And lastly, I'm also going to promote our Google Arts and Culture page. Just key in Intramuros Administration. Right, so Ma'am Nella, do you have any last words before we webinar?
Yes, for last words, if you guys have insights, recommendations about urban parks, right, and what you want to see, we want it we want everything to involve everyone, diba? It's not just about our thoughts about what we should do, but you guys, what do you dream about? What do you want to see? If you have insights or recommendations, suggestions, feedback, ideas, let's collaborate. Message us on Philippine Parks and Biodiversity. One of our active members now, Nico, is a lead, and he just started watching our webinar too. So everything starts there. So thank you again, guys, and happy Earth Day.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Intramuros Administration.
Thank you too po.
Bye.